Have you ever had that moment as a parent when your instincts scream, something's not right, but you don't have proof? Well, that's exactly where I found myself, and what happened next was a roller coaster of emotions that I'll never forget. Let me set the stage. I've been raising my daughter, Barbara, on my own since she was 4. Her dad walked out one day, leaving us with nothing but unanswered questions and a big, empty void. From that moment on, it was just the two of us against the world. Over the years, we created a life that worked for us, a bond built on trust, laughter, and yes, the occasional dramatic teenage meltdown. But recently, something changed, and it threw me off balance. Barbara had started seeing a boy, Brad. He was polite enough, with his firm handshakes and yes ma'am manners, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something about their relationship was pulling her away from me. She started spending more time in her room, normal for a teenager, I told myself, but then came the locks. Not just on her door when she was home, but even when she was out. It felt like a wall was going up between us, and I wasn't sure how to break through. One day she told me flat out, "Mom, I don't want you cleaning my room anymore." "But I'm just picking up your laundry," I said, holding the basket like a peace offering. She crossed her arms and smiled in that way that made her look like she was already 30. "I'll do my own laundry. You trust me, right?" Of course I nodded, but inside, I was screaming. Trust her? Sure, I trusted her, but this sudden need for privacy had alarm bells ringing in my head. What was she hiding? My sweet, open little girl was becoming a mystery, and I didn't like it. A few nights later, as I walked past her room, I heard her whisper on the phone, "Am I doing this right? Doing what right?" My mind jumped to all the worst-case scenarios. Was she in trouble? Was Brad a bad influence? Was she planning something she didn't want me to know about? I tried to brush it off, convincing myself that she was a good kid. But as the days went by, my curiosity and worry grew. She was locking her door more often, spending hours in her room, and barely talking to me about her day. It felt like I was losing her. One morning, after dropping her off at school, I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I drove back home, grabbed the spare key, and unlocked her door. Her room was immaculate. Too immaculate. Bed made, desk organized, laundry neatly in the hamper. It was as if she'd cleaned up to hide something. I started searching. Desk drawers, nothing but school supplies. Closet, just clothes and some shoes. Even the laundry hamper revealed nothing suspicious. I was about to give up when I remembered the most cliché hiding spot of all, under the bed. I crouched down, heart pounding, and there it was. A large plastic bag shoved into the shadows. Jackpot. As I pulled it out, I braced myself for anything. A secret diary? Contraband? A smuggled pet hamster? But what I found stopped me in my tracks. Inside the bag was a partially knitted sweater. The stitches were uneven, threads stuck out everywhere, and in the center, clumsily stitched, were the words, "Best Mom in the World." I sat there on the floor, holding the sweater, feeling like the worst mom ever. My sweet, thoughtful daughter wasn't hiding anything dangerous. She was learning to knit, a skill she was picking up from Brad's sister, apparently, to make me a birthday gift. And I had invaded her privacy to find out. The guilt hit me like a ton of bricks. Here was my little girl, who had always been kind and considerate, trying to surprise me with something so heartfelt, and I had let my paranoia get the better of me. I carefully rewrapped the sweater, making sure everything looked exactly as it had before, and slid the bag back under the bed. Then I locked her door and sat down in the living room, consumed by shame and regret. For the next 2 weeks, I tried to act normal, but every time I saw Barbara, the guilt gnawed at me. Did she know I'd been in her room? Was she pretending everything was fine while secretly furious with me? The weight of it all was almost unbearable. I wanted to confess, but I didn't want to ruin her surprise. So, I waited. Finally, my birthday rolled around. That morning, Barbara came into the kitchen, her face glowing with excitement. In her hands was the finished sweater. It was still clumsy, the stitches loose in some places and tight in others. But to me, it was perfect. "Happy birthday, Mom," she said, holding it out like it was the greatest treasure in the world. And to me, it was. I stared at her, my throat tightening. I wanted to cry, to laugh, to apologize, all at once. "You made this?" I managed to say. She nodded, beaming. "I've been learning to knit from Brad's sister. She's been teaching me over FaceTime. That's why I asked for privacy. I wanted it to be a surprise. That's when I couldn't hold it in anymore." The tears came, and I pulled her into a hug, the sweater squished between us. "Barbara, it's beautiful. It's the best gift I've ever gotten. But I need to tell you something." Her smile faded, replaced by concern. "What is it?" I took a deep breath. I went into your room. I saw the sweater. I'm so sorry. I thought something was wrong, but there wasn't. You were just being amazing." She stared at me for a moment, then sighed and smiled. "Mom, I get it. You're always worrying about me. But you have to trust me, okay? I'm not hiding anything bad. I just wanted to do something special for you." Cue more tears. I handed her the spare key to her room. "I promise I'll never go in there again without your permission," I said. She hesitated, then took the key. "Thanks, Mom, but let's just keep this with the other keys. You know, for emergencies." I nodded and hugged her again. That day we went out together and had the best time. Of course, I wore my sweater proudly, uneven stitches and all. Looking back, I realized how much I had let my imagination run wild. Sometimes being a parent means taking a step back and trusting your kid, even when it's hard. Because sometimes your teenager isn't plotting world domination or hiding something scandalous. Sometimes they're just knitting you a sweater to say, "I love you." From that day on, I promised myself to trust Barbara more. She was growing into a wonderful, thoughtful young woman, and I had to let her fly. And every time I wore that sweater, I was reminded of the lesson she taught me. Love and trust go hand in hand.